future. The first speaker joining us on stage is the Managing Director of JSW Cement, overseeing a thriving organization with a capacity of 21 MTPA. He also leads JSW Paints, launched in May 2019, which has rapidly grown under his leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, he's also the chairman and co-owner of Delhi Capitals, a prominent cricket team in IPL. Under his stewardship, JSW Sports was honored with the Rashtriya Khel Protsahan Puraskar 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much in his career what he has achieved. Now, can I request you to please put your hands together and welcome on stage MD JSW Cement, Mr. Parth Jindal. Let's give a big round of applause to Parth Jindal. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me introduce you to another guest amongst us. He's a member of Kotak family, a prominent business family in India. He's the son of Uday Kotak, the founder and MD of Kotak Mahindra Bank. As co-head of Kotak 811, Jai Kotak is involved in digital banking platform of Kotak Mahindra Bank. Please put your hands together for co-head Kotak 811, Jai Kotak. Thank you so much for joining us, Jai. Pleasure to have you here. Also joining us on stage is the Executive Director of Muthoot Housing Finance Limited, the affordable housing finance arm of Muthoot Papachan Group. With a focus on corporate strategy and innovation, she's led initiatives across gold loans, affordable housing finance, and auto finance. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Executive Director, Muthoot Housing Finance Company, Susanna Muthoot. Thank you so much for joining us, Susanna. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be surprised. Most of the time you see the ministers and the politicos in the that Lenin dress, seeing in the suit boot. He's the minister. So just making sure he's recognized. Put your hands together. Give a big round of applause to Santosh sir. And the person who needs no introduction, I literally did not introduce, but still we all recognize him, and the minister himself walked him up. I'm talking about the co-founder, Zerodha Trubecon and Gruhas. Is a renowned Indian entrepreneur and investor, best known as the co-founder and CEO of Zerodha, India's largest brokerage firm. Co-founded Zerodha in 2010 with his brother, Nikhil Kamath. And under his leadership, the company has disrupted the traditional brokerage industry in India by offering low-cost and innovative trading solutions. Is also a prominent investor, having invested in several startups across fintech, healthcare, and education sectors. Moreover, is a strong advocate for financial literacy and has been involved in various initiatives to promote financial education in India. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Nikhil Kamath. Let's give a big round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us, Nikhil. Pleasure to have you here. And our Labour Minister, Santosh Lad. Please put your hands together. Give a big round of applause to him. So thank you so much for gracing this occasion. All right. The moderator for this wonderful session is Nikhil, who will be taking it forward. Now, clapping brings in a lot of positiveness into the entire hall. Can we make the dignitaries on stage really happy with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? The stage is all yours, Nikhil.
Thank you. Maybe we begin by you guys giving us a minute, contextually, outside of the grand introductions that we all have had. Maybe you tell us what you are doing today and what you're focusing on in life. Would you like to go first, Susanna?
Sure. So I'm a fourth generation family member of Muthoot Papachan Group. We're a company that's been around for 137 years. As an individual, I'm first and foremost a mother. I've got two 1.5-year-old twin girls. And I came into the business maybe about, I think, around 8 years back as a management trainee. And over the last 7 years, I've been spending time learning about the various businesses. So the first 3 years we spend, it's just a trainee period. So we me and my cousins used to visit branches extensively, so pan-India, the tier 3, tier 4 cities. Every week, take your suitcase and leave to a new city and learn some of the most invaluable lessons there. And then today I handle the affordable housing finance arm of Muthoot Papachan Group. I just got inducted as the executive director a few months back. So that's me.
Thank you. Jay, would you like to go next?
Sure, Nikhil. I have been working at Kotak Mahindra Bank for the last 7 years. Most recently, the last 4 years, I'm co-heading our digital banking business called Kotak 811, which strives to provide a bank account and financial services to every single Indian straight through digital. I'm very excited to be here. A lot of my work happens now in Karnataka and in Bangalore, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Parth?
Yeah, thanks, Nikhil. So I joined JSW 9 years back after coming back from business school. Started JSW Cement, filing for IPOs. I mean, we filed for IPO, so process is on. That'll be my first IPO, so exciting. Started JSW Paints. I run our US steel business as well. And my biggest passion, I think, is sports. Founded JSW Sports, Bengaluru FC is the first thing that we started from this city, and we became champions in the first year, and the journey in sports began. And yeah, today I also now run MG Motors. We acquired MG in India, and I look after that as well. But yeah, Karnataka is, like Jay said, is huge for JSW. Our complex in Vijayanagar, in Bellary, is home to everything that we do at JSW. So very happy to be here and very happy to be finally speaking to you. I've only seen you on all your amazing podcasts, but now having a chance to speak to you as well and be with Jay and Susanna.
Thank you so much. Honorable Minister, would you like to say something?
Yes. I come from a business family. My grandfather started mining in Bellary in 1956. We were the first lessees. Had an employment of more than 7,500 people. I used to do from limestone to dolomite to manganese to iron ore. I started a sponge iron plant. We were about to set up even a steel plant in Bellary itself. Had a steel plant set up, a sponge iron plant even in Hiriyur in Chitradurga. Started political career at the age of 17. I'm 49 now. I'm a 4 times MLA and a 2nd time minister, and there's a second stint I'm a labor minister in government of Karnataka. So likewise from aviation, I started a cargo aviation company early in this, perhaps in the South India. So been into multiple businesses, invested into software, automotive space, aerospace. Been not lucky enough. I started a talent portal very long back before the 3G could come into this country. So something similar on TikTok. So I didn't have a great luck on that. Anyway, been on all my life into doing business and politics. Politics is a passion. I've come here. This is all about I am.
Thank you. So let me not set context for today with some very generic questions that are in front of me. I'm from here. I've grown up in Bangalore. We really want more people like Parth, like Jay, like Susanna to come here, invest more, spend more time building stuff in Bangalore. So maybe I will ask you guys about your individual industries. Tell us what is changing structurally and what might be an opportunity in that industry that one of us can take advantage of, or something that is changing that we don't see. Maybe we can start with affordable housing. And Susanna, what do you see there?
So affordable housing, we're into very low ticket size. The average is around 10 to 11 lakhs. As a group, we serve the low income and the low middle income segment. And here I think the challenge that we see, one of the biggest challenges is underwriting the customer, right? Whether it is for gold loan or affordable housing, these are customers without a formal income, without formal income. Or if you're lending to a, say, nano entrepreneur, they don't have documented financials either. So today, one of the biggest changes that we're seeing is technology playing a role in how we can underwrite these customers. With our experience, we've been able to create a robust underwriting method. And that experience, I think, is invaluable. But where even we can't underwrite the customer, there have been technologies like QR code-based lending, for example, where you use say, you're talking about a small kirana shop, you use their QR code data to assess the cash flow of that shop and then provide him a loan. So I think technologies like this is really playing a role in taking financial services to the rural segment, and also helping us reach out to more customers where otherwise we wouldn't have been able to cater to.
Jay, anything about banking? Do you think banks still have a use case like they once did? Because savings no longer need to be kept there itself, right?
So Nikhil, you've already disrupted all securities businesses. Please don't come after us so soon.
We wouldn't get a license even if we wanted to.
Banking is an ancient business and one that I think hasn't changed much for hundreds of years till recently. It was a simple act of transferring surplus capital from folks with surplus capital to those with deficit capital as efficiently and as low cost intermediary in the middle. It was rooted largely in physical and small radius local. Until about 8 or 10 years ago, I don't think any of that changed. And the way banks would grow is, if you want to open a new territory or a new colony or a new city, you open a branch, you hire people, you set up a cash infrastructure and move forward from there. In the last 6 or 7 years, that has drastically changed in India. UPI has completely streamlined small ticket transactions, eliminating the need for cash. Aadhaar has changed the concept of KYC and made it so much more frictionless. Demonetization and COVID together changed mindset, and the handset and telecom revolution changed availability in people's hands, and I think that has fundamentally transformed banking and all financial services. So yes, banks in their current shape and form, best be worried.
So a lot of us are friends and we have hung out over the years. There was a trip recently to the US where I was meant to go with Jay, but I could not. He met a bunch of tech entrepreneurs and tech companies. What do you think is happening in America where India is lacking? If there is something that we can learn from them to be able to innovate faster, what would it be?
So yes, we are behind America, and on certain things we stay behind, and the gap is large, but it is shrinking. The number one thing I believe for all businesses is talent, human capital. And one of the things America does incredibly well is attract the best human capital and capital in the context of money. And we need to continue to do a better job to attract the world's talent and train our own talent better. We're doing a great job already, but if you're asking about a comparison, I think we have some way to go.
Parth, anything you'd like to tell us about the metal industry overall? Metal prices are down, right, last cycle, significantly. Is that representative of a global slowdown? Because the growth numbers don't seem to reflect it yet. And also what's changing in terms of a nuance in the industry that an outsider might not be privy to?
Yeah, I think so. The steel industry, like any commodity business, is highly cyclical in nature. And currently we're seeing, a real dichotomy playing out in the world where you have a China which has as much steel capacity as the rest of the world slowing down. And in China, the steel industry is a huge source of labor, and it employs a ton of people, and the motivation for Chinese steel companies is to keep their people employed. It's not necessarily driven by profit. And as a result, they don't, even though the consumption in China is slowing down drastically, they want to keep the steel mills running. And in order to keep the steel mills running, they have to export. So that's why the surplus capacity of China, instead of it being shut down, is being exported to the world. And we're seeing the entire world, whether it's the US, just yesterday or day before yesterday, President Trump announced 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum coming from everywhere. We are seeing Europe do the same thing. You're seeing India also, at least the steel industry, asking the government to look at it as well, because they are dumping steel into our country, and they're trying to make or destabilize the profitability of Indian steel companies and make us reliant on their steel for growth. So I think every country in a way is becoming protectionist. And it's not to say that we are not competitive, it's to say that we are driven by profit. And if we don't make profit as an industry, we won't be able to invest in India, and we won't be able to expand our capacity in India. India, in the global context, is the only country where steel consumption is still growing at about 10 to 12%. Last year, India consumed about 135 million tons of steel. This year, all indications are that India will consume 150 million tons of steel. And we are the second largest steel consuming country in the world. So that's a huge amount. 15 million tons of incremental consumption means $15 billion of incremental investment is needed to just keep up with demand. So whether it's the auto industry, whether it's the ancillaries, whether it's because of infrastructure, we're seeing a huge growth. So the downward pressure on margins is squarely because of the surplus capacity available in China, them dumping into countries like Japan and Korea, and those countries sending steel into India under the free trade agreements. So it's all connected. So we believe that it's very imperative for any large economy, of which India is now the 5th largest, to have a very robust steel industry, very robust metals industry. And hence we're asking for the government to intervene so that we don't lose out and we don't become dependent on any foreign country for a very essential commodity like steel.
I intentionally came to this so that let me see where I'm connected, even though I started business very early. You're all champions here who have been greatly successful in your career and the business. As the mentioning to the low-income housing, right? So I still feel if you go to tier 1, tier 2 cities down the line, it is not there technically. So there has to be some homework with the state. As you're all into policy making, you should really get into policy making also, because this country runs largely on a policy making. So if you don't get into policy making, you're all youngsters. I feel you're all the future, business tycoons here. As long as, especially when it comes to housing, financing housing, it has to go to the rural level where we coordinately work with the state and as well as successful with the central government, number one. Number two, the biggest problem today when we talk about loan facility, I never see that the underprivileged or the children who are coming from a very poor background, there is no excess of money for the education. There is no loan. Kamath, you got a better audience and you're all the leaders, and since the tycoons of the banks are here, I think this, because the entire human resources is very important to this country. We have got around 54% of Indians are in younger generation, and today brain drain has been there last a decade. The brain drain has gone out, so we need to hold the brain drain. We need to educate the people. The education is only can come through the higher education. So if we as a country don't spend more into research and development, the corporates don't come and invest into research and development, so where are we going to build a nation? So along with that, when you were speaking to the steel, so why China is able to compete is 80% of coal, the coking coal is with the China. The ingredient for the production of steel, 70% of ingredient of steel production is based on the coking coal. So China perhaps is the only country which is sitting on a coking coal. That is why it is able to compete with the steel. So last 10 years, if you see, we have been between 120 to 140 million of steel production, whereas China from 350 to 520, it has gone to 1 billion ton today. It is at a 1 billion ton of a steel production. Number one. Coming to these few points, because I feel that you guys should get into policy making. As long as you don't speak up your mind for the policy making, according to me, because since you have got the insight of the futuristic business, it's my humble request to make a point. It's not necessary, don't be very that I'm speaking more political here. Just I would like to make my point since I've come here. Now you see the patents, what China's patent is 16 lakh patents to India's 64,000. Where are we? We have to speak at some platform, right? So how this can grow if you are not getting into research, development, investment, if it is not going to happen, as a country, we are definitely not going to have a big growth. Let's admit somewhere, I personally feel whom we want to compare with. The size of the population of China to now, we are at not even a $4 trillion. China is almost about $20 trillion today. So why I'm throwing this, perhaps you are aware of the statistics and I'm sure that you are aware of these numbers. But as long as you all should make it a point that every state government, when it calls for your investment meet, you should throw up your points to say to that state and central should work in synergy, in tandem, to grow as an economy. See, for example, we have got, if I'm not wrong, to the statistics, what I was going through today, we have got almost 1.5 lakh startup companies, out of which 10% are successful. Out of around 120 are unicorns. They are not more on IP based. Much are not on IP based. So you know better than me. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to give you a lecture here. Somewhere on these lines, I personally feel it's a honest. So that's why I was proposing. I would rather propose you all here that state governments and central governments should start fund of a fund, where state government, central government will put the money into the kitty, where joint venture companies or VC companies will come and big companies should participate in it. So that any money is being given in that particular state where you are also stakeholder there, so that we can grow the next coming, which are all startup companies can grow in a bigger scale. If government is giving the money as a subsidy, just we don't have a control over it. So I'm making a proposal this year. I feel you have got a greater audience in whole of a country. Please, this fund of fund, where corporates will come, and as well as joint venture companies can come, state and central will put the money so that the next generation startups can get money easily and that money stays in this country. Thank you.
While we were speaking about tariffs, if the US were to impose, say, a 20% tariff on India, what happens?
So if you look at the Indian exports to the US, it's mainly services. Goods are very small percentage of our overall kitty. So for example, in our industry, which is the steel industry, tariffs will not affect us at all because today we don't send anything to the United States. The stainless steel industry, my uncle's company, Jindal Stainless, they export stainless steel to make the razor blades for all the shaving and everything. They will get impacted. But today in the global context, I don't think for India, the US economy or the US market is as relevant as protecting our own domestic market. I think it is much more important for us to protect our domestic market than for us to worry about the US market from the JSW Group's context. There will be many, toy manufacturers, there will be many, other products, machines, etc., who will get impacted. But at least from our context, they can put 20%. They've already put 25% because we are part of the, I mean, everybody's getting hit by 25%. So that's okay.
So AI, nobody can miss it today. If you're online and you spend 10 minutes surfing the internet, you're bound to run into it in one form or another, or somebody speaking about it. How is it presenting itself pragmatically in your businesses? Susanna, do you use it?
Yeah. AI plays a big role in underwriting, which I was talking about.
Can you explain what underwriting is?
Sure. So when you want to assess a customer and see if he is credit worthy, say if you're providing a loan, an MSME loan, and you want to assess the customer, how do you go about it if the customer does not have formal documents, right? So that's where AI would come in. We use a lot of our past datas that we've collected and how those customers have performed over the years. And what it has allowed us to do is take a customer who looks bad on paper. We've been able to assess that he is a credit-worthy customer just based on our past experience and the AI that we're using. So I think that's changed the game a lot for us because it helps us target a whole new segment where somebody else would have rejected the customer. We're able to confidently take that customer on board. Other than that, it plays a big role in collections, customer service, even taking a digital product to the rural market. AI plays a big role in terms of communicating in vernacular languages. So that's also something that helps onboard people who are not well versed in English onto the digital platforms as well.
Jay, for you?
I think in our business, probably two current areas. I agree on the underwriting point, though I think that it's still, for us at least, some way away that we use AI actively to underwrite. One would be writing software, which is quite an obvious one. We've started to use LLMs to write software, and this is something you'd see around the world. They're getting so much better at it, but more in the context of a tool in the hands of a skilled engineer is at least my experience with the same. And the second is voice and customer service. Those are, as I had said, banks were, the job is to be an intermediary of capital at the lowest possible cost, and serving customers is obviously a large cost, and I think AI will undoubtedly make that more efficient.
I have an ancillary question for you. Why are NBFC stocks doing so much better than banking stocks?
Thank you for that very relevant question. The real answer is I don't know, and at some level, I don't track short-term stock movements. I think the market is ostensibly smarter than us, but sometimes you have to be humble enough to say that you don't know the answer. The other possibility is that historically, banks traded at very high multiples, so it depends on what time frame you look at the NBFC outperformance. If you look over a 15-year period, for example, I think some of the banks may do better. In a 2-year period, maybe not. And then again, depends on which banks you're measuring. So,
the cost of capital to a bank is significantly lower than an NBFC?
In general, yes. But there are some nuances to which you well know as you asked that question. Banks also have a much larger fixed cost when it comes to mobilizing those deposits. And there's a set of other regulatory costs like CRR and SLR and priority sector lending, etc., that banks are, one would argue, rightly required to comply with. And so it's a more complicated question, but in general, yes, banks are likely to have the lowest cost of capital in financial businesses at least. And then even within banks, there can be quite large differences.
if there was nothing stopping you, after having lived in a banking household and having viewed this industry for as long as you have, what would you change? One thing in banking in India.
I think that at a banking system level, we are not empathetic enough towards our customers. And part of that is the fact that the competition is ring-fenced, and it's a highly regulated business. There's merit to that as well, but we need to do much, much better, both as banks and as the financial sector, in terms of how we treat our customers. And that manifests itself across telecalling, branch experiences, the quality of our mobile apps. We are light years behind where we need to be and where competitive fintechs are in those same spaces as relevant.
Parth, same question. How are you seeing technology, maybe AI, change or not change what is a very traditional industry?
Yeah, I think if I look at AI, I would say that AI in heavy manufacturing has limited applications till date. And even within that, I think the countries where the cost of labor is very high, they are more incentivized to look at AI and technology in how to, maybe bring down labor, bring down their cost, etc. I think for us in India, I think AI is quite a dangerous tool, because we need to generate millions and millions of jobs every year. And when you start talking about AI taking over the person's job at the shop floor, taking over the autonomous driver, all these things, I don't think it will benefit India in terms of where our country is headed. Technology, of course, plays a huge role. I think the one thing that we are looking at in a big way is how to become a more sustainable organization and how to use technology to lower our carbon footprint. Whether it is by deploying green energy to manufacture steel or cement or paint, whether it is to stop burning coal and stop using thermal power plants. But again, those are the areas where we are focusing on in terms of using technology, and also obviously trying to become more efficient. But again, efficiency in India is different from, I guess, efficiency in the developed world, because here you can become efficient, but there's a fine balance you have to have, because you can increase your technology quotient, but the return on that investment in India in today's context may not be there, because the cost of labor is still very, very low in India.
Would you like to add something?
As far as the AI is concerned, anyway, there's an opportunity here, and as well as yes, there is a plus and minus which everybody are speaking. And as an outset, as an industry, we have been never ahead, because since I come from a very business family too, the idea is, if you see, you travel throughout the world, governments are always blind. Governments are always blind. It's an entrepreneurship which takes the country, and the government makes the policy. Why I was referring this point is, if you see country India, from Gujarat till West Bengal, we are covered by 70% of water. We are covered 70% of water, and look at our businesses. Where all our businesses are there. So somewhere, I think it's an entrepreneurship. If the country has to grow, it's a challenge of in every industry. They have to come up with innovative ideas. So if we have lost on innovative ideas, so now whatever AI is going to come into this country, it has got its plus and minuses. So as I rightly said, if he's using AI in his industry, it could help him to trade, because he buys a lot of cargo. He's buying a lot of cargo. It can give analytics of buying cargo at what time, what time he has to sell. So there are certain advantages when it comes to industry as such. But yes, I really don't know how it is going to enter into the job losses, number one. Number two, why I am sitting here, why I am making a mark here. Country like India, we are still on 54-55% on the service industry. 20% is agriculture. 75% is gone. So if we don't look into a small scale industry, what happened to China and what happened to us. If at all you are not focusing all the technology going, mechanization, and improving the scalability of a rural country, rural industry, we are not going to grow. We are definitely not going to grow. The biggest challenge is, this is the biggest challenge what according to I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but somewhere it has to be addressed. So people like you all should keep addressing, because you've got a larger audience, larger voice. I feel if at all we don't give more money to those people, if we can't provide a working capital to them, if we can't provide even a, like a small money where he's supposed to come, and if he is to pay, what you call, a credit line also. I think there has to be a bank for software, small scale companies, which can state government be a part of it. I would urge my government only to support any banks which are going to support the small scale industry along with the central government. This could be a greater help, and obviously since if we are able to get into AI as early as possible in the smaller small scale industry, could be there's a possibility that we'll have a little advantage on the road.
Susanna, if I were not to ask you a question that you will answer, but you could speak about whatever's on your mind, something that you would like to talk about, here's 2 minutes for you to do it.
Wow. Personal or, I mean business, but...
Doesn't have to be. Anything.
Sorry? You just opened up a huge world in front of me and it's hard to pick. Can you come back to me on it, and I'm going to think about it.
Yeah, Jay's smiling, so he's ready. Come on, Jay.
So I'm absolutely not ready, but when I saw the questions presented to me today, I knew that Nikhil would never stick to the script and would come offbeat. That tends to generate the best conversations, which I really appreciate about Nikhil. But it's always uncomfortable to be on a panel with you because you never know what's coming next.
The best thing about this is it's so much easier to ask questions than give answers.
I agree with you.
So let's stick to Jay then.
Okay, you're not letting me go. No, whenever it comes back to this, I always just say I'm a patriot. I'm really happy to be here in India. I had 2 opportunities after my studies to stay in the US, and both times I chose to come back very gladly and willingly, because I truly believe that over the past 300-400 years, there have been only 2 or 3 instances of a country like ours really kind of blooming, and that should make us all privileged.
Sorry, I missed a large chunk of that, but...
It's fine, it's just something I keep for when you ask these kinds of questions.
What was the one-line summary?
I'm proud to be Indian and happy to be here.
Are you ready now?
Yeah. So when Jay started talking about when he saw the questions prepared, one of the, I'm going to go back to those questions and actually answer one of those, because one of the questions that was mentioned there was, how do you take a traditional legacy business and ensure that ensure that innovation is part of it, because for a traditional business, and I think innovation sometimes don't go in the same sentence. When I was thinking about that question, one of the things that came to my mind, and this is something that my grandfather always used to say, and then it passed along generations on, our values have always remained the same. I think traditions, values of customer centricity, trust, but innovation comes in the form of really understanding what your customer needs and innovation is actually creating a tailored, need-based product that at the end of the day, and this is the most crucial part that I think I've heard in my family again and again, is finally it comes down to, is it affordable, of course, for the customer, and is it convenient? Especially when you look at, if you look at the low-income segment, you have to really understand their repayment behavior, and how they see the banking industry, the burden that it can put on them when you create a product. So I just want to give one example of something that we've done that has worked really well. We started a product called Neighborhood Loans. In a 2-kilometer radius around our branch staff goes and onboards small kirana shops again, and provides them with MSME loans. And what we did differently is that instead of the usual equated monthly installments, we offered them the service of paying on a daily basis. And at the end of knowing that at the end of the month, if you expect the customer to save up and then actually pay back your loan, the delinquencies will go up, and because they don't have that kind of a habit. So at the end of the business day, once all their cash has come in, that's when they actually pay us back before they close their books. So, and that's worked incredibly well. These are small ticket size where business loans up to 2 lakhs. But we see really good repayment behaviors with these customers. So whatever we do, we always come back to those 2 words of convenient and affordable. Yeah.
Parth, would you like to know what next?
Yeah, no, I think you know, just want to take cognizance of where we are. We're invest in Karnataka, and like Jay said, I think we're living in an amazing opportunity in India. I think the whole world is looking at India, looking at the growth that is going to happen. You know, we're a $4 trillion economy now. Over the next 10 years, I have no doubt we will become a $10 trillion economy. And then if by 2047 we want to become a $20 trillion economy. So it's taken us, you know, 70 years to get to 4 trillion. I mean, from 91 till today, you know, we've almost grown 4 times, and we're looking at growing another 4 times in the next, you know, 20 odd years. So I think the opportunity is huge. I think there are a lot of, you know, entrepreneurs here, there are a lot of business owners here. I think we all collectively need to dream very big. We must learn from the West, we must learn from the East, and we must develop our own way of doing business and our own way of, you know, scaling and growing. And I think, you know, I just like to give an example from the world of sports. We at JSW started the Inspire Institute of Sport in Bellary, a place that is not known for sports at all. And everyone thought that, you know, and the idea of the institute was to build Olympic champions. And we said that we're going to pick children from all over the country at the age of 8 to 13 and really groom them to go on to represent their state and represent the country and win medals for the country. Everyone thought that this was an idea that was completely crazy, and that there is no way that next to a steel plant in the middle of Karnataka, we'll be able to produce Olympic champions. But in a period of 10 years, we've won the country now 6 Olympic medals, from Neeraj Chopra to Bajrang Punia to Sakshi Malik to Manu Bhaker. Several of them have come from the institute. So the idea is that, you know, if you have an idea, if you have a dream, we are in such an amazing country with such an amazing population, with such amazing growth, that we shouldn't limit our thought process, and we should just, you know, like you've done, like Jay is doing, like Susanna is doing, just dream big and go for it, because it's only in India that we can actually achieve these kind of things.
Honorable Minister, would you like to add something? I can ask you a different question. Yeah? If you were to strip away politics, forget that you're a politician, forget that, you know, there is a narrative and all of that. If as a person, as somebody who has spent time in Bangalore, you have to make Bangalore sound attractive to the 3 non-Bangaloreans sitting next to me, what would you say to them?
I know where you're coming from. Is the traffic you're talking about?
No, not at all. No, I'm saying a reason why they should come.
You know, if you have seen West Africa,
Yeah.
businessman will always go where there is a money. No businessman starts a business for charity. Any businessman will do business because there's a business to it. So likewise, if Bangalore is there, yes, there's a lot of potential because the highest number of medical colleges are here, the highest number of engineering, ITI, diploma colleges here. The entire country's perhaps the IT sector is here from inception. So obviously, and moreover, the Bangalore climate, and it's a cosmopolitan city. So more than 40-45% of Bangaloreans basically they're from outside different part of the states, and the people around. The whole Karnataka people are so warming, welcoming. You know, they always adjusted with the people who all have come from any different part of states. So that's a great advantage. And majorly is mind. So most of the companies which have come here last 20 years, 25 years, to the best of my knowledge and ability, we have got all walks from, from biotechnology to IT to aerospace to automotive space. All sort of companies have come and pharmaceutical industries have come. So likewise, all the young minds here, this business keeps going. So my only request to you all is, I always thump upon, I keep telling everywhere when I go, this country does not belong to only the politicians. You have to be closely watching on the policy, because policy is the only thing which can take this country ahead. So young friends here, I know I'm a little prototype and I may be boring on this, but this has got a larger impact. Mind you, please everybody here, I know you may think that politics is not your cup of tea, you don't follow politics, you don't want to join politics, that's fair enough. But as long as you don't put a mind onto the thought, which government, what sort of a policy they are making, because if at all we are all sitting here, if we all have been successful here, and this man sitting beside me, I am sitting here, if the policy has been not there, then every business suffers. So coming to Bangalore here, always, especially Karnataka, has been always welcoming to any sort of an idea or any sort of investment. That's why I request one and all from any part of the world or any part of the country that they can come to Bangalore. Thank you.
The three of you, actually the four of you, come from illustrious business families with a lot of legacy behind it. How does it feel to have that structure in place? If there is one thing you could change about the prior generation and the way they make their decisions, what is that one thing? Like Susanna, what do you want to tell your dad and say, you're doing this wrong, it should be done this way?
I think, when my generation came in, and we're 7 of us, there was a structured approach eventually on how we got into the company, and but the challenge came in what our senior generation was expecting, the way that they were expecting us to work. I think when they came into the business, it was maybe 3 branches, a very small company, and they built it to what it is today.
How many family members are in the business today?
My dad and his 2 brothers, and in my generation there are 7 of us, 6 girls and 1 guy. So for them, when they grow up with the company, they kind of...
How does that guy feel?
I must say, I think we do overpower him a little bit, but proud to say that we are now a majority women-led company, and
I think I met him. He lives in Bangalore, right?
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I'm going to go back and jump back. So, yeah, they grew up with the business. They learned it while doing it, whereas when we come in, the it's not common sense to us, right? So I think we had to put a lot of pressure on actually having a formal induction into the company and push for a learning, because for me, I came back after my undergrad. I was planning to stay back as a financial analyst in the US, but it was a very critical juncture in the organization, so I was asked to come back in and join. I grew up around with people talking about the business, but it required a lot of actually being at the ground level and learning from a branch to actually understand the crux of the business. And I think that's what I would have changed when I came in. If that was done better, I think that would have helped a lot.
So when they say it is harder for women in business, is it the opposite in your household?
I don't think so. There's another side to being the only guy, right? Where growing up, I don't think any of us thought that we were going to be part of the business, but if you're a guy in the family, you know you're going to be part of the business. So I think we had to prove ourselves a little bit more than anybody else. But I think now I would say, yeah, it is easier to be a woman because you have a team of women backing, easier to be a woman because, yeah, you have a lot of backing. And for example, a lot of us are new mothers. And suddenly the organization, we realize the challenge for a person who's gone on maternity leave and to actually come back and join the business. So those kind of changes are coming into the business now because there are women in leadership positions who actually understand the challenges that women actually face, because it's not really organizational alone. If you look at, for example, for a woman to come back and take on a leadership position, if everything is perfect and the company, there's no discrimination in the company and policies are in place, unless there is a support system at home and your husband or your family members who support you and enable you to actually take on a little bit less of the household and the responsibilities that come with a family, that I think is what finally matters to actually getting women onto a leadership position. And I think with majority of us women in the company today, we've been able to build an ecosystem at home and in the workplace to enable us to actually try and do it all, even though we've not proved that we can do it all yet.
Very endearing, the way you describe it. So I went to meet Parth a fortnight ago, and we were playing paddle on his terrace. I remember when we were walking out in the lift, you were talking about Hisar, where you're from. And each time the word came out of your mouth, there was a different expression. Like there is so much love and pride in your eyes when you talk about that city where it all began from. What is that? Can you elaborate? Like I wanted to call you the next day and talk about it more, but I didn't get a chance to. Explain the phenomenon of Hisar, not in isolation, but in your mind. Why is Hisar all that it is?
Yeah, I think Jay is laughing because in college also I would talk about being Haryanvi and being from Hisar all the time, especially when I had a few drinks inside me. But I think for me, I think Hisar is the place where it all started for the family. My grandfather was a farmer's son who didn't have any formal education, and he started a trading business. Trading commodities. So he started trading commodities, and he actually saw made in England pipes in Calcutta. And that really affected him a lot. He said that the iron ore and the coal is going from India to Sheffield in the UK. They are making steel over there and then they're sending it back and we are only consuming it. So he really wanted to make steel. And for about a period of 3 months, he dressed up as a truck driver. So he grew his beard, he wore a lungi, and he dressed up as a truck driver, and he would go inside the Tata Steel's plant in Jamshedpur and come back at night and draw the machines that he saw. And over time, he decided that, you know, he has enough knowledge to make his own steel plant to make pipes. And he made my great-grandfather sell all the ancestral land that we had in Hisar. They sold their house, they sold their land, all their farming land, and he set up a small plant in Hisar, which still exists today. And from there, the whole journey of the O.P. Jindal group started. And for me, when I go back to Hisar, my dadi still lives there. She, in fact, stood as a independent in the latest elections, and she won. She won, yeah. So when I go back to Hisar, and I see the home that my parents, my father grew up in, my uncles grew up in, my buas grew up in, my dadi grew up in, and my babaji grew up in. That just gives me a different sense that, oh my God, from where they have come to where. And here I am, born and brought up in Mumbai, with the entire platform created, with the entire opportunity created. But what my grandfather went through and the risks he took, and then what my father went through and the risks he took. But somehow, going back there, eating the ganna, having the doodh, having the cows in the house, you know, going to the mandir every morning and eating sarso ka saag and makke ki roti, and, you know, really feeling that is that inner, I think the inner belongingness is there. I've never lived there. If I tell Anushri to come and live with me in Hisar, I'm sure, my wife, I'm sure she will throw me out of my own house in Mumbai. But it's this, that connection of Hisar is there, and it's in the blood, and that's where steel started, and that's why we say Hisar is the steel city, because my grandfather started building steel, making steel over there.
Being born to that mold, like you said, you're in Bombay now with all of this. Is it a burden or is it an opportunity? One often sees that happiness essentially is relative. If you're at 0.7, you're able to accomplish something and go to 8, you feel happy. So somebody starting at 0 goes to 5 has many instances in life where they can feel happy. But for you at 7, if that is the beginning, is it much harder to be happy? Personally, I feel like Sachin Tendulkar's son will be hard pressed to be happy. Is it the same for you?
I think that's only if he's a cricketer, but otherwise he should. I mean, he is. But anyway, that's a separate topic. But I think, like, I talk to my father whenever he takes a very risky decision, right? And I'm like, Dad, don't do that. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot at stake. What if it goes wrong, right? And he's like, oh, if it goes wrong, I'll go back and live in Hisar. I mean, it doesn't bother me. For me, the business decision is always like, oh, we have something to lose, right? There's something to lose. Because I have seen the company and the group at a certain level when I joined the business. So that's always in the back of my mind. So I think I would be a little bit more conservative, a lot more conservative than my father, who goes to all these places and announces new steel plants everywhere. I probably won't be able to do that. But I don't think that is relative to, that is got a relationship with being happy. I think happiness is a very personal construct, and like, for example, playing paddle with you that day made me extremely happy, or going and playing sports makes me very happy, being with my children.
We can play again.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah. Being with my children makes me very happy. Being with my family makes me happy. So I don't think happiness is linked to business in general. But yeah, I mean, his attitude or any of my uncle's attitude is like, listen, we'll do what we want to do, and if we don't succeed, we'll go back and live in Hisar. We love Hisar, and we'll go live there. So I think that type of mindset is very different from my mindset.
If you don't mind me adding to this, you were saying happiness is relative, but it's not really linear, right? So the moment you have ups and downs in your life, relatively, it's not that you're starting from 5. You go back down to 0, and then you climb back up to say even a 3, and you're
Fair point. I feel
very
like
happy,
recognition, not the inwardly happiness of contentment, but the happiness which is triggered by society around you through external forces. I think that's a bit more linear, because then they're comparing today with tomorrow.
True, but business also goes through up and down. Your success in business, which I think a lot of happiness, even if you're talking about it in a business context, for majority of the people, I feel like it is still very tied to how people see you. So ups and downs in businesses, and your success and failures in business would also be I don't know, moving up and down a lot.
Very well said. Jay, would you like to opine on that?
Just take Jay to a music concert.
Yes. Parth knows me too well. I disagree with the idea of relativity of happiness as a concept.
Do you think happiness is measurable? What is happiness? Good question.
Yes, I think happiness is it is measurable. What is happiness, I think, is a much harder and more abstract question. But we come as second generation or third generation from a position of privilege, and I think that gives us, quote unquote, a higher score to start with in the context of happiness, because you don't have some of the struggles that a first generation entrepreneur would. And that's a privilege that we should acknowledge. There does come a downside to that. Undoubtedly, less willingness to take risk, less boldness sometimes, more feeling of being able to lose something, and comfort that comes from never actually having truly experienced hardship. But those are all very small in the context of the privilege that being second or third gen kind of bestows on you.
It's very uncanny, but what I have noticed of the second gen, third gen, especially in our age group broadly, is we are a lot more risk averse than the previous gen. So there are many cases where I will talk to the grandfather, then the father, then the grandson. Risk-taking appetite somehow goes down with every generation. But risk-taking is the essential input in the world of capitalism in a way, right? So when you have kids, as I know some of you do, some of you might soon, how would you figure out how to ingrain risk-taking abilities amongst your kids, even though in your generation you thought otherwise maybe, relative to the prior generation?
No, I think, first of all, at least when you take your company public, I think whether your children will actually be in the business is not a given. It's not something that you can just expect out of them or thrust upon them. They have to deserve it, they have to work towards it if they want to be there, and they have to be deserving, and the shareholders have to be there. So I always believe that that is the first step. The second is, I think you're absolutely right, you have to take risk. It's a basic ingredient of capitalism, and hence the age-old phrase about how first generation creates, second generation grows, and third generation destroys is normally what is always has been told to me since I was basically a I mean, told to my sisters and I since we were small. But I think it evolves, and I think you have to encourage them to, like, I believe I was encouraged a lot by my parents to take risk, and hence they never made me join the main business of the group. They said, you know, build your own businesses, do your own thing, learn from your own mistakes, and then you'll eventually maybe ready to come into the big business if you show all the, you know, ingredients, you show all the characteristics of being ready, which we never know till you know. But I think it's tough to really thrust anything upon your children. You just have to hope that they enjoy the work that you do, they enjoy, and they have an interest, and whatever they're interested in, they should do that. And if they do decide to join the business, hopefully show them the stories of the previous generations and hopefully inspire them, like, to do better than us.
Honorable Minister, any last words?
Anyway, I've got a different take on this. I feel, you know, success and happiness are two different things. Happiness is sometimes a mind status. You know, how much ever money you got, you may not be happy. Passion could be an happiness to you. If you're a very passionate person about anything which you want to do, it could create a lot of happiness. But success is always a difficult thing. How do you define a success? If you have to define in terms of position, or you have to define in terms of commerciality. So according to me, whenever you make a down in life, when you make a comeback, that itself is success. His success is not mine. He is much more wealthier than me. So if I see there are so many other colleagues who are much more higher in rank in politics, so it's a ever-ending story. It's a very difficult question to answer. If at all you give a more, you know, a philosophical sense to it, I feel, you know, this world has got only a success, has got many godfathers. Failure always an orphan. So when we talk about success, and we have been all sitting here, since we have been little successful, that's why people call us, make us speak. There are so many people who are failures, have got much more potential, they have that much more better passion than us, because still they want to achieve, they keep on trying. This ever-ending story. Maybe I'm getting old now, I speak more of philosophy. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to come in again. Just to add on to what they were both saying, I think risk-taking ability comes with confidence building as well. I think that's also why I've spoken out of turn twice, because my confidence just slowly started building towards the end of the panel. But I think it's about, when you're thinking about the next generation, it's very easy as you're more entitled to get more protective over your children. So giving them that freedom to become independent, make their mistakes, and build that confidence is, I think, a big factor. The second thing is, with each generation you have more to lose. So you tend to hold on even tighter. You're scared of that, losing that life that you've been given. And in the case of second and third generation, it's not fully built by us, right? It's just been given. So I think these two factors, I think, play a big role. So
I'm glad you're feeling more confident now. Well, I think we're out of time. On that note of happiness and risk-taking, I hope the three of you come to Bangalore more often, take more risk. We'll try and make you more happy, especially him. But thank you everyone for having come and watched us for an hour, and cheers to Bangalore.
Wasn't that a brilliant session? Show it to us with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. How interesting was that such session? Santosh sir, while the panelists are here, thank you so much for gracing the occasion. Request you to acknowledge their presence. To start off, you can sit back there. Let me acknowledge each one of them. Santosh sir, we would want you to honor them, acknowledge their presence. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together, give a big round of applause to Parth. your hands together for Parth and Parth, especially grandfather's story, Hisar story was just amazing, really inspiring. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Jay. Give a round of applause to Jay. And Jay, that was brilliant when you spoke about, we need to agree to the fact that we are privileged ones to be the second gen or the third gen. That's something really impressive. Now, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Susanna. Give a round of applause. Susanna, how beautifully you describe working in a business environment. We can really correlate to getting that maternity leaves and all, how important that is, and various other aspects of being women and being powerful. Thank you so much. And Nikhil Kamath, ladies and gentlemen, do not underestimate his thought process. What brilliant. Without speaking much, he speaks so much. Very insightful and thought-provoking questions. In fact, questions which most of you were wanting to ask. Yes? So, Nikhil, you questioned, basically, मेरे दिमाग में जो सवाल थे ना, you questioned about them, and I believe most of them had that. Thank you for being such a wonderful moderator. And Santosh sir, what a pleasure having you here. You brought in a lot of insight. Can we all pose for a picture together? Now, before we step down,
So, Ellariki Namaskara. Before to this I end, I should take this opportunity to thank our CM and as well as DCM, and more than anything else, my friend Mr. M.B. Patel, who has taken such initiative. So, on behalf of you all, I would like to thank my government, Mr. Sidramaya ji, and as well as the DCM D.K. Shukumar ji, and wonderful my friend Mr. M.B. Patel. Thank you so much, guys.
thank you so much, sir. Pleasure having you here. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to have you all here. Give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to all the panel discussions. Thank you for such a good moderation, Nikhil. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, important announcement. We have a session. Not